Well, hey guys, welcome back, and boy, we have got some interesting new drama involving Steven Crowder of all people. Now, I'm going to be very blunt, very honest. I am not a fan of Steven Crowder these days. My wife was a big fan of his a couple years ago. We actually signed up for Mug Club before he got, unceremoniously canned from the Blaze when they went their separate ways, and Mug Club kind of screwed everybody because we couldn't get our money back. It was just a big mess, right? It was just a giant mess, and I kind of got a bad taste in my mouth at that point, but you know what? We were willing to try to follow Crowder to wherever he went, but unfortunately, it never ended up renewing because, again, I didn't want to spend the $90 for the year, however much it was all over again. So, that being said, Steven Crowder has been in the middle of controversy the last couple years, one of them being involving the guys over the Daily Wire, another group of people that I'm not exactly a big fan of. Basically, at this point, I'm just kind of over most of these talking heads on the right-wing conservative sphere of things. But as you can see from, what was this, a year and a half ago, right-wing pundits Ben Shapiro and Steven Crowder clash over a $50 million media deal. Basically, I guess the idea was that at the time, after he left the Blaze, he was approached by Jeremy Boring over at Daily Wire, and he didn't like the number that they came up with for a contract for him, and that turned into a big feud between him and the guys at the Daily Wire. Then, of course, I'd say more notably was the very messy divorce between Steven and his wife Hillary, and of course, people decided to clamor to both sides because, in a divorce situation, there's always people, even strangers. This is the weirdest thing. Even strangers are going to take sides in a divorce that has nothing to do with them. And of course, we all saw the Ring doorbell video or whatever it was on his back porch. The way that he was speaking to his, at that time, pregnant wife, it didn't look good for him. I don't think it necessarily crossed the line into abuse territory, but it was pretty weird to watch. I will say, without any context, watching it from like the outsider's perspective, it was very strange to see the way he was behaving, talking to his wife, but whatever. So that being said, what's been more recent involving Steven Crowder and more legal drama is this former employee, Jared Monroe. I believe he was one of the producers on the show. Again, you have to forgive me for not knowing everything about this guy's life. I was not a regular viewer of Steven Crowder. That was more my wife's, corner of the world there. But this statement that he put out April of last year involving some issues he was having legally with Steven Crowder. This tweet was from April 1st, said, "Statement, I have never tried to extort my former employer," and this is regards to some things that Jared has said about Steven Crowder, I believe. "On the contrary, they are now suing me for $1 million, trying to cause my family financial ruin and force my silence. This baseless retaliatory lawsuit and the legal harassment that preceded it are a clear violation of the law. I will not be silenced by legal threats or smear campaigns," and I think it's important to remember Jared had a non-disparagement clause, and I believe he had a confidentiality clause as well that I believe Steven Crowder said that he had violated. So, of course, this is where the countersuit comes in, or the lawsuit from Steven Crowder. He says, "In response to my former employer's unlawful aggression, I have hired attorney Matt Brunig and filed the following charges." And, of course, you can read this if you want to go and take through the time to take a look at this too as well. But it's gotten more interesting today because Matt Brunig has tweeted out that he has achieved total victory in the Steven Crowder case. And of course, we have this article that is written up over here on NLRB Edge. I have no idea. Maybe this is the lawyer's website or whatever. It says, "Total victory in the Crowder case. Crowder agreed to pay up and rescind illegal contract clauses for all employees." Now, we're going to go through this in a second. This is a settlement, okay? But first and foremost, it is a settlement between both parties. However, there are a lot of people who don't understand how this is a massive win for Jared Monroe and an actual loss for Steven Crowder. And there are people asking like, well, how is it a win if it's a settlement? A total victory would be, one side wins and one side loses. And the reality is Jared Monroe is getting everything he wants out of this and more, and Crowder gets nothing. So yes, sometimes a settlement will have a winner and it'll have a loser. My mom has gone through divorces, and one of them ended up with her paying some guy, thousands of dollars plus legal fees for business-related stuff that he had no legal right to, but because her lawyer sucked, the settlement for their divorce ended with, this guy getting thousands of dollars out of her. Sometimes settlements do have winners and losers. So this article says the Steven Crowder legal saga has finally come to an end after filing and then withdrawing one lawsuit, filing and then losing another, and facing unfair labor practices charges at the National Labor Relations Board. Crowder opted to settle the case by paying an undisclosed sum of money to his former producer, Jared Mettello, and rescinding all non-disparagement and confidentiality clauses in the employment and severance agreements for all of his employees. That is huge, okay? For those who have not been following the story, what follows is a brief timeline of the legal battle that led to this settlement. I should have let off with this. This would definitely explain it a lot better. October 2023, Crowder began pursuing a variety of frivolous legal actions against Jared in Texas state court, including filing a Rule 202 petition which illegally sought to use the tools of judicial discovery to obtain information about protected activities, and filing an illegal lawsuit seeking to enforce an illegal non-disparagement clause. In April of 2024, acting as Jared's legal representative, I filed a ULP charge against Crowder in the Atlanta region of the NLRB, alleging that Crowder maintains employment and severance agreements with illegal non-disparagement and confidentiality clauses, and that he filed an illegal lawsuit seeking to enforce an illegal non-disparagement clause. May and June of 2024, Crowder voluntarily dismissed the legal lawsuit that sought to enforce the illegal non-disparagement clause and filed a defamation suit against Jared for sending the following email to Crowder's ex-wife. So you can see this email says, I think there's a scenario where several of us would be willing to attest to all of that. And the response here says, I just don't want him anywhere near those kids. That really, really disturbs me. This is, of course, Jared talking to Hillary, the ex-wife of Steven Crowder. The strategy appeared to rely on the assumption that a defamation lawsuit grounded in common law rather than a non-contractual breach would sidestep the issues encountered with the NLRB. In June, I filed an amended ULP charge at the NLRB alleging that Crowder had now filed a baseless and retaliatory defamation lawsuit against Jared, which is also a violation of the National Labor Relations Act. In October, the Texas District Court judge presiding over the defamation lawsuit granted Jared's motion to dismiss that case on the grounds that the lawsuit violated Texas's anti-SLAPP statute. The judge ordered Crowder to reimburse Jared for $43,037 of legal expenses and pay an additional $15,000 in sanctions in order to deter Crowder from filing any similar actions in the future. The judge also stipulated that Crowder would be required to pay an additional $35,750 to Jared if Crowder appealed the decision and then lost the appeal. Wow, that's crazy. In December, Crowder and Jared reached the settlement agreement above, in which Crowder agreed to pay Jared an undisclosed sum and rescind the non-disparagement and confidentiality clause in all of his employment and severance agreements. In exchange, Jared agreed to withdraw his NLRB charges. The agreement contains a confidentiality clause that forbids Jared from revealing the amount of money Crowder paid him. The agreement also states that the settlement payment represents attorney's fees and expenses incurred by Jared in defending against Crowder's legal actions, and that the parties may publicly disclose that the claims were settled and reference any information that is in public record. One thing in the public record is that a Texas court already ordered Crowder to pay Jared $58,000 for filing the frivolous defamation suit. Another thing in the public record is that the ULP charges Jared withdrew as part of the settlement would have, if successful, resulted in an NLRB order requiring Crowder to reimburse Jared for the legal expenses he incurred defending himself against the earlier Rule 202 petition and non-disparagement lawsuit as well. Overall, this was a complete victory for Jared. He successfully defended himself against all of Crowder's legal actions. I mean, there's really no two ways to slice it. You don't have to be a fan of Jared. You can believe that Crowder was right. You can believe that Jared was wrong. But in this situation, in this legal case, if you will, there's no other way to look at it than Crowder basically got his ass handed to him. Now, I'm not going to say necessarily that he deserved it or that anything that he sought in this was, completely out of bounds. But the reality is, for a lot of people, myself included, the last couple of years have not been kind to Crowder. Has definitely not painted a favorable picture of him and his personality and the way that he interacts with other people, especially when you hear people like, the comedian that used to be on his show, I can't remember his name, Dave something, I think it was, who has come out and said not such flattering things about him, especially not a fan of, his time working on the set, on Ladder with Crowder. So I'm going to leave it right there, guys. Make sure to feel free to share your comments and your thoughts on all this down below. I'll be curious to hear what you guys have to think about this, and I will catch you guys on the next one. All right, and if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching the video. Thank you for being here. I do have two channels, Minimal Effort Podcast, as well as my gaming channel. I do have a Twitch and Kick for my gaming channel. We do live streams over there occasionally, maybe once a week. And then if you are in the market for a new PC, make sure to check out Meta PCs. Click the link I have down below. Use code TBO at checkout for a special discount. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.